right, we'll go ahead and throw it over to the county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, good morning. I want to welcome the city commissioners and their staff to the boardroom this morning, September 10th, 10 o'clock a.m. That was duly noticed by the county. We have a proof of publication for today's conflict assessment meeting. What I wanted to do, commissioners, and I had spoken to each of you individually and administrative staff, is kind of taking some precedent that we had from February when we had our first conflict assessment meeting in a very long time, and hopefully go from that and make this as beneficial and productive between the city and the county as we possibly can. What I want to do is just give you a quick summary of how we got here for the court reporter, Ms. Amanda, who's transcribing it all today. Hopefully we don't need her transcription moving forward, but in the abundance of caution, we have that. And give you a kind of a chronology how we arrived today here on Ordinance 618 and 619, which are city ordinances that were adopted back on August 5th. The conflict assessment is a step required by statute, as you all hope the city and the county are both familiar with now, having gone through this already earlier this year. As I indicated, on July 15th and was a first reading for ordinances, city ordinances 618, 619. That was a first reading, and then they had a second public hearing and reading for adoption on August 5th at the City Hall. Following that, this county commission on August 26th met and adopted resolutions 2025-43 and 2025-44. Ms. Carey has copies of those and the certified letter that was provided to the city of Port St. Joe. If you want, can you give that to Clint? And we had sent it to the city the day after your meeting on the 26th, where you adopted those resolutions. The immediate following day, we sent certified, hand-delivered, and emailed the city notice of opposition, in addition to the conflict resolution request and notice, and your two resolutions I just referenced in opposition to 618 and 619. And Clint, if you have this, a copy, you guys already have all that. I just wanted you to have it, know what I'm referencing to. Commissioners, Chairman, you all have a copy of it in front of you as well. So with that being the predicate, we have now established the conflict assessment meeting. We've advertised in the News Herald, which I have here, a proof of publication from Ms. Cooper that ran back in August, which was required by statute. The city was required to do the same prior to today, 10 days in advance or more. And ideally, they'll provide us that notice following this meeting today. Real quickly, to give the opportunity to the county commissioners, which is really, this is your forum in which to talk with the city commissioners in an open meeting, in a workshop setting or a mediation, to hopefully work through this issue in your opposition to 618 and 619. As you all are very familiar, you had received notice back in May on these two potential ordinances for a voluntary annexation and a land use change after they annexed in this 2.5 acre parcel in the industrial park. In contrast to the current one that you have in the 14th Judicial Circuit, we received actual certified mailer prior to it. It also met your interlocal agreement that you signed 13 years ago, which said they would give you notice prior to any movement on an annexation. What we have, unfortunately, is you had instructed myself and the administration to participate and let them know your opposition to those annexations, which we did. And we attended both the July 15th meeting and the August 5th meeting. We submitted letters in opposition and stated the grounds on which we opposed the annexation and the land use change. And adjacent property owner, actually Eastern Shipbuilding, had submitted I think a 3 or 4 page letter in opposition to the city of Port St. Joe in advance of them adopting the annexation of this 2.5 acre tract. What I want to do is just give you a brief summary of the position of the county in opposition to it. I would say this on the front end. The statute requires the county to file within a certain statutory period of time to contest these. They adopted on August 5th. You adopted your resolutions. The city accepted the notice for the conflict assessment, which is required by statute, as you all know. If this is not successful today, then the city and the county are required by law, Florida law, to go to mediation, which we've done. We did that back in April on the last go-around. To meet the statutory requirements for the counties preserve its rights, last week, within the 30-day period, a complaint for declaratory actions and injunction was filed in the 14th Judicial Circuit with regards to 619 and their land use change. And it was about 70 pages we provided to Clint and the city as a courtesy copy. In addition, last week, there was over a 450-page writ of certiorari in opposition to the annexation of Ordinance 618. So those have both been filed with the court. They have not been served on the city. I attended the meeting, the city meeting this week, and provided them another courtesy copy with the actual e-filed recording on it. So for the purposes of the county and today and conflict assessment, those are sitting in the court system. The idea is that the conflict assessment today resolves this issue. If it doesn't, then it goes to mediation under the law. If that doesn't, then these will both be served on the city, and we'll move down the same path that we've been on for the last 7 months on Ordinance 616. Real quickly, I'm going to give both the city and the county the general idea of where we are. Parcel ID 4571, which is owned by HK Gulf Coast Holdings, LLC, consists of 2.5 acres on the north side of Industrial Road, whose southeast corner is cut off slightly by the roadway. What you have is the parcels surrounded on all sides by incorporated parcels zoned by the city of Port St. Joe as industrial. In the middle of the only industrial zoned area in the city of Port St. Joe, the parcel is approximately 1,800 feet as a crow flies from the nearest residential zoned area, which would be the corner of Avenue G and Hodrick Street, separated by several railroad tracks, industrial zone parcels, dirt roads, paved roads, industrial parcels, heavily wooded vacant parcels, public use vacant parcels. Access to the parcel to this closest residential area by street requires use of US Highway 98. Access from the parcel to other residential areas requires traversing either the Tapper Bridge, which we all know on 98, or to cross the Gulf County Canal. The parcel is zoned by Gulf County as industrial, which is classified usage as vacant. The neighboring parcel to the west, which is parcel ID 4281, owned by Port St. Joe Holdings, is zoned by the city as industrial, with classified usage as no ag acreage. The satellite image of this parcel shows that it is also wooded. The parcel neighboring to the north, which is parcel 4281, is owned by Port St. Joe Holdings as well. It's zoned city as industrial. Again, classified usage as industrial. The parcel across Industrial Road to the south, which is 4572, is zoned by the city as industrial with a classified usage as state. Satellite imagery of this parcel shows that it is partially wooded near Industrial Road. And then all the other adjacent or parcels within the proximity, and I actually have a couple of them. I asked Noah just to bring up actually the on the television screens so the commissioners can all benefit from it. I think commissioners, you have one here. This is just the actual parcel is yellow, and then this one here. Actually, no, I think it's the other one. That's the actual notice in the paper. It would be the other image. So the yellow parcels are 2.5 acres, commissioners, in the middle of the industrial park that we're here about today. And again, the character of everything surrounding it is a city property, which is not being contested, and it is also all zoned industrial. And I don't know if Noah can get the other one up. That's the other one of the first two. Again, with regards to 618, it was an annexation, a voluntary annexation. You commissioners on the county level, and I think the city and Mr. McCahill now are all very well versed in what's required under the Florida statute. There's 3 requirements. One, it has to be substantial competent evidence of what was introduced to the city. The second, it needed to meet all the requirements of due process. And the third, it needs to meet all the essential requirements of the law. Prior to their adoption, we provided them opposition saying that those requirements had not been met, the 4 corners of the law. Following the adoption on August 5th, we went and provided them the opposition and again told them the things that they were deficient in. They didn't meet the requirements of 171 in terms of notice. They didn't meet the essential requirements of the law, and there wasn't substantial and competent evidence to support it. So much so that what we had provided, and Noah had the other one up, and he might as well put this up, but it's this one right here. I'll give this to you. This is the notice from the city to the public. This is the city notice that was published. And again, when we talk about due process, commissioners, and adequate notice, you'll see that this is what was advertised by the city of Port St. Joe. We had indicated to them that didn't meet the requirements of the law as it wasn't discernible, it wasn't decipherable. We've been through the legal languages that are required. This is not adequate to notify the public of voluntary annexation, and this was what was published in advance of their 2 public hearings. 618, again, we have a legal challenge to that pending. Hopefully we can resolve that today. We can have the city, 1, go back and do it correctly, which we asked them to do back in January on 616. If they don't, obviously with their voluntary annexation, we have a second challenge that we're here for today, which is 619, which is the land use change. At the same time, simultaneous to adopting 618, the city went forward on a land use change of simultaneously annexing in this 2.5 acre wooded lot, and then second, moving it into a residential classification. And then, so what we've done is we've obviously provided and prepared a legal challenge to that. In essence, the 619 challenges to the ordinance adopted by the city consists of really three arguments. One, it was a defective notice. Two, the spot zoning that occurred is in direct violation of Florida statute. Three, it lacked a consistency with the comprehensive plan of the city of Port St. Joe under 163. And then we've provided, under their comprehensive plan, objectives 1.3, their policy 1.3.1, their objective 1.4, their objective 1.9, their policy 1.9.1, their policy 1.9.5, and again, their policy 1.9.11, all under the comprehensive plan, are in direct violation of what the proposed land use change was. The second was a lack of internal consistency with their comprehensive plan, which again is in violation of Florida Statute 163. And we have, obviously, I'll cite them, but there's 7 different policies and objectives within their comprehensive plan that are cited that they have violated, changing this 2.5 acres once they voluntarily annexed it in to change it into a residential parcel. And thirdly, as I mentioned earlier, the illegal spot zoning in violation of parcel 4571, and we've provided that to them as well. What we will seek is a permanent injunction through the court system if we can't get a resolution here and invalidate the annexation of the 2.5 acres for the parcel. Ideally, as I mentioned again, this conflict assessment is to avoid that protracted litigation, which right now we're currently under Ordinance 616. We started in January, and we're now in September. We've had some success on the county level with regards to the interlocal and a favorable ruling, and right now we're currently waiting on Judge Collier's ruling with regards to the writ of certiorari and the legal challenge to 616. But again, today is hopefully a positive day for the city and the county. It is a day in which you guys can all hopefully discuss your concerns. Last time we met in February was prior to their adoption, and you had a 2-hour meeting on a conflict assessment. You county commissioners and city commissioners had expressed all your concerns in advance of the adoption on March 4th of that ordinance. Sadly, it was still adopted, and a lot of your concerns were not addressed. Today, it already has been adopted. I guess the train has left the station, for lack of better words. The legal machinations are all happening. As you can see, we've already had to do all this to stop what we feel is an unlawful annexation and also illegal spot zoning and changing the land use. But again, for the purposes of today, this is to give you all an opportunity to hopefully avoid further litigation. And I would turn it over to the chairman of the county commissioners if you have any opening remarks, as you are the initiating government entity on this conflict assessment, and then you can turn it over to the mayor and the city and their staff.
Commissioners, y'all got anything you want to say or address at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I have some questions.
Yes, sir.
So whenever the city goes, I guess I can ask my questions after we get some information from them.
That's fine. All right, we'll turn over to the mayor and Mr. McCahill.
Jeremy made a bunch of legal conclusions. A lot of those arguments are in front of the judge right now in the prior case that we had with regards to the other annexation. And whether those conclusions become reality or they're not will be decided by the judge. So the city disagrees with most of his legal conclusions that he just stated with regards to both 619 and 618.
Mr. Chairman, can I, and hopefully this moves the ball down the line, because I think it would be helpful for all 8 of you gentlemen right now, and Mr. McHale made that comment. Would the city have an open approach that if it is a ruling that was adverse to the city's arguments, that the city and the mayor and the commissioners would embrace that, and then we can hopefully avoid litigation on this? So I agree with you, it is pending before Judge Collier, but if it is not favorable to the city, can the city and the county look?
Our position,
Yeah, can the city and the county look forward to hopefully not having to serve these and go through the same process? If the courts find that the process and the annexation was illegal and unlawful, would the city be open and agreeable to obviously invalidating it and not enforcing this ordinance 618, 619.
We would have to review the order and reevaluate from there.
All right. Mayor, you want to add anything?
I just, I personally like to hear from you guys, what do you think we should do?
Well, the reason, Mayor, is my side of it is, you know, before I came on this board, there was some talk about spreading out, decentralizing growth in this county. We are a small county, relatively new policies. Comp plan was made, when was the comp plan really done? 92? So it's not really an old document, and you talk about other municipalities, that's not an old document, it's kind of a new document. And when they sat down and did it, they said, these are the areas that you have that you need to look at and preserve, whether it be city, county, or industrial, and stuff like that. And so my thing is we know, and it ties into a bigger picture on the industrial side of it, we have to designate this and have this area for growth. And we all know, we share the same thing you do, is that we are tourists right now. I mean, that's our driving force. And that's actually growing. The tourism side is growing, as we all know that. However, as you can see, like this last weekend, tourism was off because we had the incident in the Bay. And with that being said, what is our backup? What do we have other things? I know we had the mill. You go down there, you go historically on that, and that has its own set of guidelines that you went through back then. But we have to be on the same page going forward with how we grow that separate economy when tourism doesn't work. What are we going to have? You know, that we've thrown things out there, you know, it's like we're throwing it out there, see if it sticks and make it work. I got that. But that's how you do it. I mean, that you come together, you make these decisions. This area is where we're going to do that if we're ever going to do it in this county, this industrial area. It is zoned that. It is near, you know, I hate to say it, the way they drew up the city a long time ago, you got that right in the middle of the city. I understand that. But the way it is, this is industrial. This is what that was for. I guess that's my biggest beef, is this industrial land. The annexation thing is part of this too, but then, you know, it's industrial. And why would we dare do that? Why would we put houses in the middle of industrial land? Why? Doesn't make sense to me.
So your reason was you're against growth? That's
No,
what
no,
you
no.
said.
Well, let me say that. Against growth? Absolutely not. Growth that is manageable and is smart growth. Okay, smart growth is when you have comp plans and you follow your comp plans. If your comp plan needs adjusting, you adjust the comp plan. But that's how you grow smart growth. And I know you've had some people come in and do presentations, oh, well, you can do this, you can do this. They've done it in other places. Yeah, they failed miserably. We're growing. There's no doubt we're growing. Everybody knows that. We're building. What is that perfect model, though? What does it look like? I don't know it. I mean, but we need to be on the same page as we're going looking at this model. You know, we can sit here and fight and go back and forth with court battles and all that, and it maybe not come out like you want it to come out, whatever. But going forward, we need to be able to work together and say, this is areas that we have that we want to see the smaller houses. We want to see the workforce housing. We want to see industrial growth. We're not talking about smokestacks, folks. We're talking about small areas where industry can come in, and that's where you want your workforce going. That's what I meant by growth. But no, I'm not saying we're not going to have growth. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
All right, you go ahead, Mr. Hudson. You got any
Yes,
questions?
sir. I just wanted to ask a few questions on what is the density going to be on this parcel if this were to go through?
Jim, he's asking what the density would be on the 2.5 acres.
Currently, right now, the city brought it in under R3, which is 15 units per acre to the maximum. So I think it's 2.3 acres, so the maximum, you're roughly looking at about 30 units maximum. Currently, right now, it is platted as a residential subdivision. I believe it was that way in the county before. It's residential, it was 12 platted lots. So it's been residential as far back as anybody could go back and review.
Was it, when it was purchased, was it residential?
Yes, sir. To my understanding, it's been 12 platted lots when it was in the county for many, many years.
So if I'm a person, I'm going to buy that lot right now. I mean, they bought it, what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
So let me just clarify, so, because I think it's semantics. So it was a subdivision. I think it dated back to the Kenny Mill deal, all of that. Remember, that was workforce for them. They lived on scrip, and whites lived on one side of the road and blacks lived on the other side of the road, but it was all workers for there. Since the county comp plan, which was adopted in 92, retroactive to 1990, that has been industrial from the beginning. So it is zoned, always has been. It is land used for industrial, even though it was a plat from the 30s or whenever that plat was done. It was a very old plat. But again, not only that was part of that subdivision, but all around that eastern property now used to be the port property, including where the sewer plant is. So again, all that was Kenny's Mill, again, long before our time. But it is, as until the lawsuit's settled, it's industrial. As everything around that is, from the paper mill to the bay to across the other side of the canal to all the way to White City.
Mr. Edmonds, when was that done? Was that done part of the large-scale plan amendment with 1,500 acres that was recently done?
No.
Or was that done many years ago?
No, this particular piece of property, we went to the original maps because there was some concern, but that the property appraiser had it as residential for some reason. But the original county comp plan has never been changed. So since 1990, since it was originally adopted, again, it's retroactive to 1990. It was actually adopted in 92. But that is the only zoning that this property has ever had is industrial, ever in the county.
If it was already residential, why would you have to do it?
Correct, and that was my argument in the thing. So it's clearly it is. Now, again, what was mentioned before, because the developer came to the county to change that and was denied a long time ago. But the whole point was it goes in as the same thing it is. If it was ag, it would have been ag. If it was residential, it would have been residential. If it was already residential, there would be no need to change the land use,
So, Mr., what was the timing on when they came to the county before to ask to change it? Do you remember was it before this purchase? Was it the previous owner? Does anyone know?
We'd have to ask the planner.
I
haven't
know
talked to him.
timeline, because the other one, it was Dunlap that owned it before, correct?
Excuse me?
Was Davidson Dunlap, that who owned it before the Dunlaps? I got you.
It was a garden when
I got you.
It's the current owner who owns it now is the one who came into my office, into the planning department, and was asking questions about doing workforce housing and doing a subdivision there. I had informed them at that time that property was industrial. At that time, they had actually referred me that they're on our online GIS map that it was listed as residential. At that time, I told them I would do some investigating and looking into it. I spoke with Mr. Butler, also spoke with Mr. Hammond, and went and dug up our original maps that we used to do our comprehensive plan in '92. It was some Mylars that are on file upstairs that has every piece of property in Gulf County and what its future land use designation would be. And on that map, this 2.5 acre parcel was part of the industrial land use. And so that was what was sent in with our original comp plan application. And so then I informed the current owner of that information that it was industrial, and the only way that they could move forward with putting housing in there, they would have to do a land use change through the county. And basically informed them at that time that, I would not deny them the application to do that, but the county was probably not going to be favorable to that because of the area that was all industrial, so.
So one, state your name for the court reporter. I just got that in my
Doug
ear.
Crane, County Planner.
Yes,
So-
if you come to the podium, please state your name.
So the other thing that I want to say that might be a little bit confusing, because this is a small piece of the larger tract. This was all at one point part of Kenny's Mill. So again, this predates even the paper mill days. But after the Gulf County Comp Plan, retroactive to 1990, was adopted in 92, the city annexed some of these pieces. Remember, St. Joe sold that piece, I believe, originally to the Port Authority. I believe that's how it went, in two different phases. That was in the county until a later time, and I don't know when it was, but at the same time, they were annexing other stuff, and I'm gonna guess in the early 2000s. But so all of this, again, this is one like spot zoning for us either. Everything that was in the county, and to my knowledge, everything around that was in the city, including Arizona and the wastewater plant, was all industrial. So there was zero residential anywhere, either on our maps or, to my knowledge, on their maps. But again, this was annexed, say, 15 years or 20 years after our comp plan.
Do you see our side, what we're talking about? I mean, it's not, come on now, we're here seriously. I mean, you see where, so the developer comes, I mean, we're gonna get right down to it. The developer comes, no, you're told no, because this is industrial land, this is the way we feel, this is our board, we follow our policies. Okay, I'm gonna go try Plan B. So Plan B is there, correct? They went to the city and said, hey, y'all annex it in, we can get 30 units per unit per acre. That's, so why would we be supportive of that?
Here's my response to that, and this whole issue with this 2.5 acres is just kind of blowing my mind that with the needs that we have in the county, and especially the city, that we're all aware of, that we need housing for folks that can live here, that'll support industry that comes along, okay? And kudos to y'all for being benevolent to a possible residential area, because you're worried that they might hear hammers and equipment and so on and so forth out there. This lady wants to build workforce housing for her employees that is very much needed. Now, if the county has any plans or anything that's come to you guys for industry on that plot, you know, that would be great to let the city know it is our property. But if you don't, you've got a little aggregate plant out there that's open sometime. But it's nice that y'all are worried that these people that might be living there will be worried about, look, when you buy a piece of property, you go in with your eyes wide open. Okay, if you buy a piece of property next to an airport, you can't complain about airplanes going overhead. If you buy a piece of property next to the 10th Street ballpark, don't complain about kids down there having a good time and so forth. So it just doesn't register to me as a common sense approach to your keep talking about industry. There's no industry. There hasn't been any on that for 75 years. And if there's some coming, I would love to hear about it. And we may change our whole ideas about it. But right now, it's right on the road. You pull off Industrial Road into this 2.5 acres now. Keep in mind, 2.5 acres. You know, I wouldn't care if there was 100 units, you know, in there personally, and nobody else should either, because it's going to help all of us. But just to oppose it because you got some idea that we may have some industry coming here, that's fine if you want to do that. But it doesn't make common sense to me just to oppose it because it's an industrial zone. And that's what, obviously, you're putting all your cards on. It's industrial. That's fine. But it's, to me, it's just not common sense to be against something that would help both of us, because you might be worried about density, or you might be worried about, you know, somebody that lives there is complaining about noise. When we've got Eastern Shipbuilding right now is closer to Northport St. Joe, Martin Luther King Boulevard, than that your industrial zone is for this 2.5 acres. So that's just how I feel about it. I'd love to hear somebody change my mind in a reasonable way and not just hanging your hat that this is an industrial zone that could be created to make something, that will help the county and the city, just because it's industrial.
Well, I mean, two things you brought up that talk about, and one of them is being workforce housing by an individual. This individual, we have a group that's been working, what's, Ms. Gilbert? Kathy, has she been, is this person, you know, because there's a lot of things when you do workforce housing that under the term workforce housing, I know Commissioner Husband and this whole board has been looking at all the, how do you do that, you know, to preserve workforce housing and all. So this was workforce housing for her specifically or for her for the whole county? I didn't get that. Was that ever, is it, in other words, this is for just?
I don't really know. I don't think she's gonna restrict these homes to just her employees. I don't know. She's not here to answer these questions. I don't know, but it really doesn't matter to me. She's gonna build a development in there that'll increase ad valorem for the city and the county. And she said at the meeting that she was building it for her employees. That's what she said when she was at the city meeting. That's what, but she didn't say, but fine, if she makes a couple of dollars, I mean, she's gambling that, you know, it's property rights, Randy.
I understand property rights. I understand making a couple of dollars, but you don't make a couple of dollars at what's best for the whole county in a comp plan. You don't say, when we make our comp plans, we say, we're going to make it so we want everybody to make the most money they can make. That strikes, that's not what we're here. We're here to do smart growth. That's what I was talking about, smart growth.
Randy,
If
you don't mind.
Sure.
In my opinion, you brought something up in the very beginning when we started talking about the comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
You know, you said it was adopted in '92.
Right.
It was actually written in, I think, in 1990, correct, Michael? Comprehensive plans, is that, you know, compared to other municipalities and counties and whatnot, is that still a early comprehensive plan? Of course it is. But that comprehensive plan needs to be updated. When that was written, it was in 1990. We had a thriving paper mill at that time. We had a chemical plant down there at that time. In '98, that plant came down. That's when really city and county government should have started working together at that time to start thinking about the future, to start thinking what's going to be best for all of our constituents in this, not just the city, but the county. Because everybody in the city is also a county resident. And I think going forward, that's something we need to sit down, do workshops on to where we can get more of a cohesive plan between the city, between the county, so we can have a vision of what we think is going to be best for the people of Gulf County. It needs to be adjusted. I mean, is it zoned industrial? It sounds like it was. It sounds like to me, from what I've heard, there's a clerical error that took place at some point where it was zoned residential and they called it industrial, but there's no true clarification of what that property was. But now I think what the mayor's saying is that area has been empty for so long. If there's big plans, we need to sit down together. We need to start working together, not against each other, for the best for our citizens. And I'm open to doing that.
Amen. I think you're spot on with that, Steve. And I guess when we were talking about that, it is a new plan, and you're exactly right. And the second point I was going to go to, you know, taking the workforce side out, you were talking about plans we have down there. We do need to work together on what those plans are. It's in the city. It's right there near the city, you know, so it needs to be in there. I understand that. We're starting that process. You can't, these processes, when you start bringing in other businesses or attracting businesses, it takes years. And they, you know, my experience in that, they pick you out. You don't pick them out a lot of times. So what do we have? We have to have an area where we can bring these people in and say, you're zone industrial, we got these incentives. You know, these are a lot of things that we do. That's why I say we got to have this area to do that with. If we start putting housing in there, they're not going, I mean, I don't see them coming there. I mean, that's it. So do we need to work together? Absolutely. Guarantee you that's the best thing. And I think, Counselor, I heard you say, you out the brakes again, but if we could slow this down a little bit, I think that's a little bit this talk. I mean, are we worried about someone making money right away? That shouldn't get into our business. You see what I mean? That should not be what drives our businesses, is whether we can get these people making money, a developer making money. That should not drive anything that we do. So if we had this conflict assessment like we're having now, we should be stopping, saying, hey, let's pause this a little bit. Let's start having these workshops you're talking about. Let's bring in the people that are talking this and do this. Does our comp plan need adjusting? I think we talked about that, didn't we, Mr. Hammond? Didn't we talk about we were going to start looking at that again, just going over it? We talked about it at a previous meeting, board.
Yes, but I think the fundamental difference is, and just to break it down to what they are we going to have any industrial or not? Right. And if we are, do we have it where every single piece of property, any direction, you can go to the Bay, you can go to White City, you can go to the other side of the Highland View Canal, or you can go to Avenue F, I think is the other one. Every single other piece in there, in that entire zone, is industrial. And you're changing a 2-point-something acre piece out of what, 1,000 acres, more than 1,000 acres? If you go all the way to White City, it's 3,300 more. That's the brass tacks is, it's not even annexation on this piece. I think I could certainly recommend that if they would agree not to change the land use, to let them annex it, because they've annexed over the years all around this. It makes common sense. But not to put a house, because when the first house is in there, anybody that tries to do anything, again, we're talking light industrial, we're not talking smokestacks, is going to be opposed.
Opposed to it, yeah, because you got a house there, and you don't want another industry coming next to it. Absolutely.
Kids, you got school bus stop, you got whatever the situation is. It's going to be noise, it's going to be light. I mean, you go over there right now, the backup alarm on the front end loader when they're putting sand or aggregate or whatever they're hauling there. I mean, that's going to chap somebody. And again, common sense, the mayor said, don't complain about the airport if you move next door. Don't complain about aggregate and trucks, dump trucks if you move next door. That's all fine and good till they're there. And then they vote. The business don't get to vote, but the people that live there would get to vote.
I'll echo that, Mr. Chairman. The comp plan, and Mr. X, this is something in response to you earlier. The comp plan and the zonings are a planning function. And we have, basically, the city and the county has identified this area as industrial from whenever the comp plan for the city was, I'm not sure when the comp plan for the city was done. But since 1990, the county has identified this area to have great potential for the county to have additional industrial. And as Commissioner Pridgeon just said earlier, if these industrial opportunities find us, we can't go out to find them. They have people that come out and find us, and we get tasked with marketing that once they find us. So if there's a residential development within this area, there's going to be kids, there's going to be, the possibility of kids being hurt, all of the above. And that's going to be a liability, seen as a liability from these people that are actually coming here to provide us industrial jobs. And my fear is once this one piece gets changed, then that's the beginning of the end for the industrial zoning for the entire highly potential area along this canal.
Can I just add one thing? I've got a question for the city. Mayor, how much property do you guys own right behind 10th Street over here, behind your shop? How much property is that?
There's 65 acres that was donated to us that we've been currently working on for 4 years for workforce housing. All of it's not usable, of course, probably only 25, 30 acres of it usable. I think we met with you guys several years ago on the density there. We came to an agreement, and the agreement was for 172 units there, mix of single-family apartments and condominiums.
So I asked that because I think we all for affordable housing and we all for workforce housing. I just want to ask, would the city be in favor of meeting with the developer and maybe, because the county would like to keep that part industrial, maybe swapping 2.5 acres in that section for the development?
That'd be great. That's right across, that 2.5 acres is right across from the port, correct, Michael? That's right.
Correct.
I mean, right across.
Correct.
The street from that, where the Port Authority owns, right? You know what I'm talking about, the acres.
Oh, Arizona.
Right across the street.
Arizona property.
Yeah, Arizona, it's right across the street, that 2.5 acres.
That's correct.
The reason why I asked that, I think, I mean, in my mind, if the developer want to build affordable workforce housing, I think that could be a win for the county and the city. And if we could, and the developer does agree, if there's something that we could do on our end to help with that, with that 2.5, I mean, I don't know how the board feels, but I'm pretty sure we can help somehow.
I think that would work if she's committed to workforce housing. We've already committed to Knowles Avenue over here, for workforce housing. So,
It's just a thought I was just thinking.
I mean, that's a reasonable thought, except there's no road to the property. That's a $2 million bogey that we've been working on for quite some time. Her property right now is the road right there. All she'd have to do is cut a road into her development. So is it, who knows? I mean, everybody's, I'm sure, open for negotiation as far as development goes. So
Let me ask this.
I'm just speaking for me. I'm not speaking.
Okay, I got you. Let me ask this question. This may be an engineer question. For a road, and I'm just thinking outside the box real quick, for a road to go into that property, Mr. Smallwood, just off the top of your head, what do you think?
Price it out.
And the reason why I ask that is this, because I know we're getting ready to, hopefully, you guys will sign the interlocal agreement on the road money that we're about to give you guys. But and that could be one of your roads you can put on. I'm just throwing that out there, but I don't know. But it's just a thought. You don't have to bring it up, Mr. Smallwood. But I'm just thinking. I'm just trying to think outside the box and try to make this thing work for us all. Just my idea.
Was that the quote? Was it 2 million, the quote for the road in there? When you,
Jim, what's the estimate? Is it 1.9 or something, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Jim Anderson, city manager. Yes, we're working on it. We have it engineered. We've been trying to work on it. We've worked with the county that we've determined that one section in there is a county road to open up as a public access road that goes through. The new road has to be on the back side of the property. Actually worked with Mr. Husband on there to put this together. Roughly about 1.7, 1.8. We've asked for $2.3 million. We're hoping to hear something back sooner than later to be able to complete that part of it for the access. The developer's ready to go. We have it on our meeting next week, next Tuesday, to potentially give on a development order to start the first 15 houses. We just got to hear back to get that money for the road. But no, y'all work with us on that. We have what we need to put into place to get to the new potential road. We just got to get the money to build it. So, but no.
and that's 100 houses?
172 potentially. It's a mix. It's got a lot of multifamily in there to start with. What we wanted to do was we wanted to build 15 to 18 single-family homes for the working class people to have somewhere to live so we can really promote growth here and help our businesses.
That's a good idea.
yeah, on that, it had to be a mixture of workforce
sure.
and affordable housing for us to even get the money to do that project.
There's a lot of people wanting to help, and so right now the biggest thing is the road, correct? I mean, that's
Yes.
is that the,
Absolutely.
so that was on legislative priority when, is that what y'all sent in?
It was last year and it got vetoed.
Okay.
It actually made it through
Yeah.
Senate and House, but
Uh-huh.
got vetoed at the last
Well,
minute.
But y'all, you're resubmitting it as a
You could
priority?
not, you could not submit in this past year because of the way the timeline works. So they have gone another avenue for securing funds through, was it Department of Commerce? Correct. Yeah, the Department of Commerce. And it looks like they've made some positive traction. So we're very hopeful that we're gonna get some news, some good news for that. And going forward, everything we're talking about, whether it be for economic development growth, whether that economic development comes through growth of tourism, which creates construction jobs and retail jobs and whatnot, to being light industrial, we have to get back to that plan of how do we sustain even bringing in businesses if we have nowhere to put the workforce. We have to have affordable workforce housing in place, because that's what a lot of the people that are trying to find you, that's what they're gonna be looking for. They wanna know that the employees that they are hiring have a place to live and afford to live and make a good wage. So I think with what the city's doing now, if we can push that through, 172 units will be massive. And I know I'm working with Kathy and myself. I know on the 10 houses on Knoll. I mean, that's what we have to start doing. We have to start securing that land, securing those homes, which in turn is going to open up Gulf County and the city of Port St. Joe to future growth.
So I guess my last part of this would be, are our guys open to the recommendation or the ask to the city that, would you consider that, the property over there, if we can, if the developer will be willing?
Consider
The 2.5?
swapping 2.5 or asking the property owner.
Yes.
I guess, I mean, but.
We'd have to write up a proposal. and talk to
But right now, the 2.5 acres is annexed into the city. So do we unannex it? How do you do that?
I don't think we have a problem with annexation, Mayor. I think our problem is moving it to residential. And I would not oppose annexation into the city as long as it stayed industrial. I don't have a,
So we would, what I'm hearing is the board would be fine with the annexation and just keeping it industrial.
absolutely, absolutely.
And do we have clarification that that property is zoned industrial and not residential?
1,000,000%. And again, that's the difference between the property appraiser's GIS maps, again, and the comp plan. And
There
again,
comes the
we
confusion.
went back to the original, so there's no doubt about that. We went to the source, Don Butler, too, but it's never been anything but that. And again, once that was adopted in 1992, it would have taken a ordinance to change that property. It's never been done. So there's zero chance that it's not, but.
I guess we need to figure out how we're gonna approach the developer.
I just love that, if the county could write up the proposal. I would definitely, absolutely love to avoid going to court for the next 8 months on everything, like we've been done with the previous case. Make my life a whole lot easier. But if the county could put together a proposal, we'd be happy to take a look at it, talk to the developer, see what we could do.
Sounds reasonable.
Mr. Chairman, I know you're closing in on your time for the Port Authority, but in listening to the city's comments, if I can, just real quickly, some things I want to just put out there from the discussion for the last 40 minutes. Go ahead, Commissioner, I'm sorry.
You want me to?
Yeah.
So, we could even, if you wanted to work up a deal, we could purchase that property. If we could work a deal with the developer, we would, and help y'all facilitate y'all's project over here. I mean, we've got to come to some common ground.
That'll go, if you'll hear the next meeting we're talking
Yeah.
about too, let me jump in on that. If we purchase that, that would be a
Yeah.
huge thing for what we've got going forward, that y'all are gonna be involved in as well, as far as building on that port and stuff like that. That's right across the street. That's why I wanted to ask you. It's right across from that property that we're talking about next. That makes a huge, yes, that would be a huge thing. for us going, because that allows you to put that business over there. Hey, we got your property right over here. Let me show it to you. We got workforce housing up here. So it starts falling together. Those pieces start falling together if you have that property. That is very valuable property.
So what you're saying is, it sounds like to me, is you, the county, want to go to the property owner of the 2.5 acres and make an offer to buy it.
But that's contingent upon,
Y'all would have to put up some more property over here for them to do what they want to do.
yeah, it's
But yes,
contingent upon.
that would just sweeten the deal for
Yeah.
the developer and for y'all.
It's not just getting your money back, it's getting your money back, plus you've got the ability to build houses that you wanted for your workforce.
And once again, I think our attorney said it best, and work up a proposal and get to us, and then we would have to, I guess, all of us come together on agreement on that, and then go to the developer, which is Ms. Paddock. Correct?
Yes, that's right.
And we leave the annexation alone, bring it into the city, but we just be zoned industrial.
Yeah, I think, Clint, we're fine with that.
Yeah,
We're
that's
fine
not a
with,
problem.
we don't have a problem with annexation.
Okay, we'd love to look at whatever you got.
And it's a win-win, because then when we get that business over there, you get the ad valorem off the business taxes there. So it's a win-win.
So when we want to meet again? Because there's a timeline because of all the other stuff. So to stop the lawsuit and the mediation and all that kind of crap, we need to probably.
So we
maybe
need
next
to,
week.
first, we need to get the proposal together. That's gonna be on us.
Jeremy's filed everything, so it's been filed at times, so there is.
No, so we were required to do mediation if this is not successful. What I would recommend is that instead of concluding this conflict assessment, I'd say we go into recess. Give the city and the county the ability to go back and come up with a proposal. I had spoken to Ms. Haddock after that last August 5th meeting, and I would encourage her to hopefully participate in that dialogue, because she's obviously the piece to the puzzle. Come up with a proposal between the city and the county, have Ms. Haddock at the table, and obviously recess this to give us the ability to come back. Like I said, it will stay or abate the mediation that we're required to do under the state statute. Hopefully, all three parties can come to some kind of resolution. If we can't, then we have to go to mediation. You can continue the discussion there. But I'd say if we give the county at least a week to come up with a proposal, submit to the city, and then the week following, next week, we can hopefully reconvene, the 10 of us. And obviously, in terms of notice requirements, we've already advertised this, and we'll publicly advertise again, and we'll just recess this and hopefully bring the city and the county together with Ms. Haddock's participation and come to some agreement under the conflict assessment, if that works for the city.
That sounds fine. It'd be great to work.
And Mayor, we could up the allowable units so we don't screw up what you're already doing with your other folks. So this would be in addition to what our agreement was before. So if our agreement was 172, or what was our?
It was 172.
So if they said, okay, they're good with 30, we'll change that where it doesn't affect what you're already working with your developer on your other deal.
That
Is that
was my
good?
next question.
Is that reasonable? Okay.
Good. All right, we good? All right, so we're gonna recess.
Recess and get the proposal
And then we'll
and
get back.
reconvene.
We'll come back. All right. Meeting stands in recess?
Yeah, if you would, and then Amanda obviously notes that, and then we'll work on the county to get the city a proposal, and then we'll work on a date week following next that we can all get together and hopefully meet again to come up with some kind of agreement.
All right, meeting stands in recess. Thank you, guys.